All right. Saying that we live now, my brother.
I'm about to check real quick.
Yeah, I'm about to do the same thing.
Let's see.
Yeah, I think we live, bro. Yeah, I'm about to do the same thing. Yeah, we
Yeah,
live.
we live, bro.
All right, my brother. Hey, Shalom, Mike, y'all. We want to give all praises to Yahweh by Yashem, Yahweh Shah, by Yashem Wakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders that rule well, and peace and blessings to you brothers out there that's kicking his word, sincerity, also in truth. We wanted to come with a sit down going into the Hasmonean dynasty. The Hasmonean dynasty is a time period in which we were able to basically set up Judea and be a vassal state of the Syrian government at that time. And this took a long a period for us to actually establish the Hasmonean dynasty. It actually came from the Maccabean revolt, um, and so we wanted to touch on the Hasmonean dynasty where it began, which again it began around what's that? What 140? Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you good. Yeah, you talking about the Hasmonean dynasty, right?
Well, I was talking about the revolt, the Maccabean revolt that started around 140.
Oh, okay,
Um, yeah, that started around 140, in which that led up to the Hasmonean dynasty. Okay, so for the sake of time, I wanted to start with Demetrius Soter. You can actually read about him in First Maccabees, the seventh chapter, and I'll grab that.
I can read for
And
you.
okay, just what I wanted to do is just kind of read down and get a backdrop of him, and also then look him up on Wikipedia because once you do that, it'll kind of link everything together. Okay, go ahead, my brother.
So I'm gonna start at the book of First Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 1. It says, "In the 150th year, Demetrius, the son of Seleucid, departed from Rome and came up with a few men into a city of the seacoast and reigned there.
Hmm.
And he entered into the palace of his ancestors. So it was that his forces had taken Antiochus and Lysias to bring them unto him.
Hmm.
Wherefore, when he knew it, he said, Let me not see their faces.
Hmm.
So his host slew them. Now, when Demetrius was set upon the throne of his kingdom, there came unto him all the wicked and ungodly men of Israel, having alchemists, who was desirous to be high priest for their captain.
That's right. So you had Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, like you said, he was actually in Rome under and captured. Um, Now, if you read up on Seleucus, Seleucus was one of the four generals that began to reign after Alexander the Great died. So, and Antiochus the Fourth was actually the his was his what's the word I'm looking for? His uncle was Demetrius' uncle. That reigned in his stead. So Demetrius was basically in bondage in Rome until the age of 22, in which I read it now. So this is Demetrius Soter, an early confinement and escape. Demetrius was sent to Rome as a hostage during the reign of his father Seleucus the Fourth, Philopator, and his mother Laodice the Fourth. When his father was murdered by his finance minister Heliodorus in 175 BC, his uncle Antiochus IV Epiphanes killed the usurper, but usurped the throne himself. When Antiochus IV died in 163 BC, his 9-year-old Antiochus the fifth was made king by Lysias. And these are the two that we just read in the scriptures that were killed by Demetrius. So Demetrius was then 22 years old. He requested the Roman state to restore these Syrian throne to him, but was rejected since the Romans believed that Syria should be ruled by a boy rather than a man, which they probably wanted Antiochus the fifth to reign, this for political reason, to keep them in a docile state, because
Right.
Rome on a rise at the time too. Um, while this was going on, while Demetrius was gaining his authority, you had it to where Judas Maccabees and his brothers, they were actually making pacts with Rome, at the around this time, because you could read about that in First Maccabees, the 8th chapter. But for the sake of time, we're gonna jump to the 9th chapter. Um, let's see here. He requested the Roman Senate to restore him. We already read that. 2 years later, Antiochus the fifth was greatly weakened because Rome sent an emissary to sink his ship and hamstring his elephants for the violation of the peace of Apamea, storing too much weaponry. Demetrius escaped from confinement and was welcomed back on the Syrian throne in 161 BC. He immediately killed Antiochus the fifth and Lysias, and that's what we just read in the scriptures. And so you had him, after he killed these two characters. You had the wicked high priest and what's my man name? But I always say it wrong.
Bacchides.
Bacchides.
Yeah,
That's what I
Bacchides.
want. Bacchides.
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 Con.
Bacchides was his general, and they began to make war with Judas Maccabees and his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Judas Maccabees was eventually slain by Bacchides. Okay, we could read about that in First Maccabees 9, and we could go to verse 11. And brother, if you had anything to say, please, Papa Shah, let
Con.
it.
I'm gonna start at on First Maccabees 9. I'm gonna read verse 1, and I'm gonna kind of jump around a
Okay.
little bit. So this is First Maccabees chapter 9, verse. I'm gonna start at verse 1 and kind of read down a little bit. It says, furthermore, when Demetrius heard that Nicanor and his hosts were slain in battle, he sent Bacchides and alchemists into the land of Judea the second time, and with them the chief strength of his hosts, who went forth by the way that leadeth to Galgala, and pitched their tents before Masalath, which is in Arbela. And after they had won it, they slew much people.
Mm-hmm.
Also the first month of the 152nd year, they encamped before Jerusalem, from whence they removed and went to Berea with 20,000 footmen and 2,000 horsemen. Now Judas had pitched his tents in Elasia, and 3,000 chosen with him, who seeing the multitude of the other army to be so great, were sore afraid, whereupon many conveyed themselves out of the host, insomuch as there abode of them no more but 800 men. So at this time, when Judas's army seen the host of Bacchides, all right, and Alchemist, which Alchemist was a wicked Israelite,
Yeah.
with a lot of his men fled, man. So you got to think he had way more men that was with him before the actual fighting took place. You see, now I'm gonna jump down to verse. Let's see, I'm gonna jump down to verse 16.
Okay. Hey, you mind starting at 11 out there? If you don't
Con,
mind.
con. This is First Maccabees 9 and 11. It says, "With that host of Bacchides removed out of their tents and stood over against them, their horsemen being divided into two troops, and their slingers and archers going before the host. and they that marched in the forward were all mighty men.
Mhm.
As for Bacchides, he was in the right wing, so the host drew near on the two parts and surrounded and sounded their trumpets.
That's right. So they had Judas Maccabees basically totally surrounded. You
Mhm.
know, you can kind of visualize it in your mind. He separated the troops, okay, and really, came down on Judas Maccabees, man. Go ahead, out.
And it says, verse 13, they also of Judas' side, even they sounded their trumpets also, so that the earth shook at the noise of the armies, and the battle continued from morning till night. Man, could you imagine, bro?
They was fighting for a long time. It was probably, they probably shooting arrows at one another, with slingshots and things of that nature.
Man,
For quite a while until it turned to hand combat.
hmm
You had to be a mighty man in order to survive, in a war like that all night. You fighting all night. You have to factor in, the weight of the sword, the armory, things of that nature, man.
man, bro.
Which at the time, Judas Maccabees and his, and his troops, they knew they were going to die at this time. You know, he was
Con,
like, let's just die manly. You see, go ahead, huh?
con. It says, verse 13, it says, they also of Judas' side, even they sounded their trumpets also, so that the earth shook at the noise of the armies, and the battle continued from morning till night. Now, when Judas perceived that Bacchides and the strength of his army were on the right side, he took with him all the hardy men who discomfited the right wing and pursued them into the Mount Ozotus. But when they of the left wing saw that they of the right wing were discomfited, they followed upon Judas and those that were with him hard at the heels from behind. So he was
He
he
was
was he was attacking the right wing
mhm.
of Bacchides' army because that's he knew Bacchides was over there. So he was like, if I could take him out, that's the W, that's the victory. If we can actually get him, take him out. So the left wing that was surrounding him came up from the back.
Mhm.
Phew, man. It
Yep,
says, verse 17, it says, whereupon there was a sore battle, insomuch as many were slain on both parts. Judas also was killed, and the remnant fled.
that's right. So there you have it. Yeah, Judas Maccabees. He was killed. There was a great mourning in the nation of Israel. But then you had uh, what's my name? Bacchides.
Bacchides,
Bacchides. I cannot. Bacchides. I don't know why I want to call him Bacchides. Yeah. He began to come down on Israel very hard, and so they elected the high priest over the nation of Israel. Now, if you can, brother, jump to verse 27.
God, I got you. This is First Maccabees 9:27. It says, so was there a great affliction in Israel, the like whereof was not since the time that a prophet was not seen among them. For this cause all Judas' friends came together and said unto Jonathan, since thy brother Judas died, we have no man like him to go forth against our enemies and Bacchides and against them of our nation that are adversaries to us.
Mm-hmm,
Now therefore we have chosen thee this day to be our prince and captain in his stead, that thou mayest fight our battles.
mm-hmm,
Upon this, Jonathan took the governance upon him at that time and rose up instead of his brother Judas.
mm-hmm. So you had the base. I want to say the generals of Judas. Because it's saying the friends of Judas. It had to be his generals, things of that nature. Say, you know what? Hey, we need you to rule. In Judas's stead, Jonathan, because without a ruler, you had but Titus, he's coming down on us hard. He was setting up. If you read up in this chapter, for the sake of time, we don't have to get it. He was setting up garrisons in the land, in
Mhm.
our land, okay, causing great slaughters, okay. So this was a time to where there was a you had these Greeks and these wicked and our wicked people. They were gaining an advantage over us, you know. And so with them electing, Jonathan to be the high priest, Jonathan was able to make war with Bacchides, and eventually take him down. But they fought some hard battles beforehand though. So this is a very tedious process, man. This didn't happen overnight. The Hasmonean dynasty didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of war, a lot of bloodshed, and also a lot of negotiating between the Maccabees and these various countries, like case in point, Sparta. That would be one. Rome. You know, no. Jonathan and Simon were known for their diplomacy. Okay,
Right.
not only for their military might. Okay, if you can, brother, I wanted to jump down to verse 49, and I kind of show you uh, basically a war, well, a battle that happened between uh, the Israelites and these Greeks. So
Kind.
49 and 57, and then we could jump to verse 63 and read down to 73. And I could read some too, because it's gonna be a lot of material. So after you
Kind.
read, after you read from 49 to 57, and I'll read from 63 to 73.
Kind. Okay.
Kind
Good.
of,
Um,
kind of.
I'm gonna start at verse 49. So this is First Maccabees 9 and 49. It says, "So there were slain of Bacchides' side that day about 1,000 men." Because you got to think, like the brother, like like the deacon was saying, there was battles that was taking place even after Jonathan became the ruler. Bacchides was still, in the Edomites of the Seleucid Empire was still coming up against Jonathan, Simon, and the Maccabees. You know what I mean? It says, so there was slain of Bacchides' side that day about 1,000 men. Afterward returned Bacchides to Jerusalem and repaired the strong cities in Judea,
Mhm.
the fort in Jericho, in Emas, in Bethoron, in Bethel, in Thamnatha, in Parathoni, in Taphan, did he strengthen with high walls, with gates, and with bars.
He
And
said no. He said basically in embassies, of just to you know, illustrate, what we're setting up in our country. You see,
Mhm.
and these are various places in which you had the heathens setting up garrisons, man. And those garrisons was what for control. You see, so without Jonathan, coming into power, there was a strong possibility that the nation of Israel would have been completely Hellenized, man, or
Right.
completely taken over. You see, go ahead, Doc.
It says, and in them he set a garrison that they might work malice upon Israel. You see, it says he fortified also the city of Beth Sarah and Gazarah in the tower and put forces in them and provisions of victuals.
That's right. So even within these cities, you had some of these cities that were completely Hellenized, man. Case in point, uh, Beth Shura. That place was a refuge for heathens. And if you don't believe me, just all you gotta do is simply go to the next chapter in First Maccabees 10 and 9. So you had, not only were we brothers gotta understand, not only were we fighting against, the Edomites or the Idumeans, the Greeks, we were fighting against our own people, man. You see, so
Hmm.
making and things of that nature with with these various heathens was very vital in with us surviving. And also before we was talking, hey, that's this out of the Maccabean revolt, and leading up into the Hasmonean dynasty. That's where you get the sects of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, man. You know,
Hmm.
Pharisees were very stringent on keeping the law and preserving our culture. A lot of people, the Pharisees have a negative connotation because when people think of them, they think of just, some, self-righteous guys, which a lot of them were. But the underlying reason why they were established was to ensure that, that the laws, statutes, commandments, which again is our culture. Culture means a way of life. Were being followed by our people, and also more importantly, were remaining intact. You see, because here, you know, starting with Antiochus the fourth, man, they were trying to completely wipe us out. You see, and you had our people that were complying with them.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Doc.
I was even going to say too, man, after the Babylonian captivity, when through the decree of Darius or Cyrus the Great and Darius, when we got the decree to go back and to build the temple, man, you know, that was important.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to have that issue where another nation would come through and take us down again. So we was actually really fighting for what was ours. You know, I want to think it's comment from the comment board. The brother Pashai from Shalom Yahweh Shem Yahshua Barakatah. He had put a good precept on here. Second Maccabees chapter 2. I'm gonna start at verse 23. It says, "All these things I say, being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 books, we will essay to abridge in 1 volume. For considering the infinite number and the difficulty which they find that desire to look into the narrations of the story, for the variety of the manner, we have been careful that they that will read may have delight, and that they that are desirous to commit to memory might have ease, and that all into whose hands it comes might have profit. Therefore, to us that have taken upon us this painful laboring and abridging, it was not easy, but a manner of sweat and watching." Then he said, like you said, this didn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And this took a dispensation. You looking at, I mean, from time until Yahweh came on the scene, this is about almost 200 years.
Yeah. Yep.
You see?
About
So
20 years. Yep.
you had a lot of time. You had a lot of things that was taking place of Hellenization taking place at a very, very massive level. You see? And a lot of different pacts and deals being made. Like when you read the New Testament, you got to understand, how did the Romans and the Israelites come together, whereas the Israelites could still keep their customs, but they had to be under taxation of the Roman Empire.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And
That took place during the Hasmonean dynasty.
right. Yep.
You
It
know,
started here, and it started like in this point of time, man. You know what I'm saying? Because the teacher that Uriah had brought out beautifully, man. We were making pacts, man. And these pacts lasted. You know, when Rome was able to come into power. You see, so we always were corresponding with Rome. You know, and if you want to just get more edification on that, you could, you know, the earliest times you could read in First Maccabees, the 8th chapter, going into how Judas is making pact with Rome. Just brothers want to read it up. You know what I mean? Read up on it. You know what I mean?
God.
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and continue. It says, First Maccabees chapter 9, verse 53. It says, "Besides, he took the chief men's sons in the country for hostages, and put them into the tower at Jerusalem to be kept. Moreover, in the 153rd year, in the 2nd month, Alchemist commanded that the wall of the inner court of the sanctuary should be pulled down. He pulled down also the works of the prophets." This is a Jake doing this, man.
This is a Jake, a Hellenized Jake that was doing all this wickedness, man. But what did the Most High do to him?
Verse
Go ahead.
50, verse 55, it says, And as he began to pull down, even at that time was Alchemist plagued and his enterprises hindered,
Mhm.
for his mouth was stopped and he was taken with the palsy, so that he could no more speak anything nor give order concerning his house. So Alchemist died at that time with great torment.
Mm.
Mm.
And palsy basically is when you know,
Pretty much
how
a
can I
seizure.
explain? Basically, like it look like you have a stroke, you know, but not a stroke necessarily a stroke. It's like one of the side of your face is paralyzed.
Yep,
You see, that's what happened to him, you know, for being wicked as all get out,
yep.
you know, But with him going down, that you know, really induced but what's the one name? But
Bacchides.
Bacchides to fall back. It's gonna say in the next paragraph. Go ahead up.
It says, now when Bacchides, verse 57, now when Bacchides saw that Alchemist was dead, he returned to the king, whereupon the land of Judea was in rest 2 years.
So he went back to his land, and the land of Israel, well, Judea was at rest for 2 years, but he eventually came back and was defeated by Jonathan. And we can jump to verse 63, to get the understanding on that. So I'm gonna read this one out because I don't want you to get tired out.
I'm good, bro.
I know you true to this, ain't new to this, but I want to preserve you.
God,
Now this is First Maccabees 9:63. Which thing when Bacchides knew, he gathered together all his hosts and sent word to them that were of Judea. Then when he laid siege against Beth Basi, and they fought against it a long season and made engines of war. But Jonathan left his brother Simon in the city and went forth himself into the country, and with a certain number went he forth, and he smote Adad Anarchis and his brethren and the children of Far Saran in their tent. And when he began to smite them and came up with him his forces, Simon and his company went out of the city and burned up the engines of war and fought against back Bacchides, and who was discomfited by them, and they afflicted him sore, for his counsel and travail was in vain. Wherefore he was very wroth at the wicked man that gave him counsel to come into the country, and so much as he slew many of them and proposed to return into his own country. Wherefore, when Jonathan had knowledge, he sent ambassadors unto him to the end he should make peace with him and deliver them to them the prisoners, which thing he accepted and did according to his demands, and swore unto him that he would never do him harm all the days of his life. When therefore he had restored unto him the prisoners that he had taken aforetime out of the land of Judea, he returned and went his way into his own land. Neither came he any more into their borders. Thus the sword ceased from Israel, but Jonathan dwelt at Machmas and began to govern the people, and he destroyed the ungodly man out of Israel. So there you have it. Bacchides return, and guess what? He was destroyed by Jonathan. Well, he was not destroyed. That wouldn't be the correct term, but he was defeated. That's a better term by Jonathan, and so they made a pact, and he ended up returning back into their land. So Jonathan was able to reign. Okay, but then you had in Maccabees 10, Maccabees 1 and 10, you had Alexander Ballas, the son of Antiochus Epiphanes, supposedly, you read up on him, they say that he supposedly was the son, but it wasn't really verified. he began to claim that he was the rightful ruler of Syria, and he was backed by Rome and also the Ptolemaic Empire, and so he began to make war with Demetrius. Okay, and so Demetrius wanted to make a pact with Jonathan. And actually both of them wanted to make a pact with Jonathan because they knew that Jonathan go hard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he only in the Maccabean Empire. These guys are men of war.
Right.
So here you had in this verse, you had it to where they uh, were basically bidding for the trust of Jonathan here, man. Okay, so this is First Maccabees 10, and I start at 15.
I
And
got a quick precept real quick.
go ahead.
I know it's in Proverbs. Salaki, hold on 1 second.
No worries.
Let me see something real quick. It's a scripture in the Proverbs that talks about how when a man's ways please the Lord. Roughly, I'll just quote it. It says, "When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him."
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So in this instance, man, Jonathan had to do what he had to do for people at this time. Matter of fact, I think I know where it is. Proverbs. I want to say it's in 22nd chapter. Let me see real quick. Proverbs 22, and actually no, that's not it. But yeah, I quoted it. For the sake of time. But you got it, brother.
Okay, got it. No worries. This First Maccabees 10, I started 15. Now, when King Alexander had heard what promises Demetrius had sent unto Jonathan, when also it was told him of the battles and noble acts which he and his brethren had done, and of the pains that they had endured, he said, "Shall we find such another man? And now, therefore, we will make him our friend and confederate." So Alexander Bolus, he's like, "Man, have you heard about this dude Jonathan Maccabees? Man, we're not gonna find a more noble, basically about that life dude than this dude, man. We need to make a confederate with him, you know." Upon this, he wrote a letter and sent it unto him, according to these words, saying, "King Alexander to his brother Jonathan sent greetings." And you know how Esau like to lay it on thick. I found it intriguing. I forget which chapter it was. You had it to where, actually, I want to say it's around the 12th chapter when the Israelites wrote unto the Macedonians how
Right.
straightforward they were being. But then when you read the letters of the Greeks, it's just just cheesy. Too much. You could tell that they're trying to flatter Jonathan. I just random. That's just a random thing that I've seen. It's not a big deal, but this is verse 18. Verse 18. King Alexander to his brother Jonathan sendeth greetings. We have heard of thee that thou art a man of great power and meet to be our friend. Wherefore now this day we ordain thee to be the high priest over thy nation, and to be called the king's friend. And therewith withal he sent him a purple robe and a crown of gold. So he was trying to set him up as the king, basically not the king, that wouldn't be the correct term, but the high priest over the nation of Israel, man. Gave him a gold crown, a purple robe, which symbolized royalty, okay? And require thee to take our part and keep friendship with us. So in the 11th month of the 60th year at the Feast of the Tabernacles, Jonathan put on the holy robe and gathered together his forces and provided much armor. Whereof when Demetrius heard, he was very sorry and said, what have we done that Alexander hath prevented us in making amity with the Jews to strengthen himself? I will also write unto them words of encouragement and promise them dignities and gifts that I may have their aid. He sent unto them therefore to this effect, King Demetrius unto the people of the Jews sent greetings. Uh, whereas ye have kept covenants with us and continue in our friendship, not joining ourselves with our enemies, we have heard uh, hereof and are glad. Wherefore now continue
Damn.
ye still to be faithful unto us, and we will well recompense you for the things ye do on your behalf, and will grant you many immunities and give you many rewards. I wonder what that word immunity means, bro. You mind if I look this up?
Yeah, con.
Yeah, I just want to get verification because that one word will get at that verse right there, light. You know.
And that's what Esau always does, man. He'll, he see the strength that Jake getting, you know, and he like, well, we see him making deals with Alexander. Well, we need to up one now. So now all of a sudden the same man that was warring against us, hey man, how about this? And when you read that account of what Demetrius said, man, nigga was lying, bro. Like I'm talking about to the
Yeah,
T, to the max, just lying.
yeah,
You know,
hella lying. Yeah, he was ridiculously lying. He didn't do any of the things that he promised. That
man.
word immunity, I'm pretty sure it's going into the second one. Protection or exemption from something, especially an obligation or penalty, and it's going, as you read, it's going to basically just give you it's going to let you know what those immunities were.
Hmm.
Okay, just and now that I free you, and for your sake I release all the Jews from tributes, they go one immunity, and from the customs of salt and from crown taxes. So these were very taxes that people had to pay, you know, that they won't have to pay anymore. And this, in our terms, this could that could be millions of dollars. Think about if you ran a city, heck, we'll say a state, because that's really what it was, a state. And your state doesn't have to pay taxes to um, America. Do you know how much you will be balling if you
Bro,
have to
think about it like this: when you go to work and you get a paycheck, no tax
God,
is taken out.
God, it's $300 in your pocket. $300 in your pocket.
You run a business, bro, and you don't gotta pay no taxes.
You you know how ridiculously on you would be? Hey,
Man,
think about it. Think about it. The quantitative easing. When these various big huge companies got all these loans and didn't have to pay it back. Those loans that they got were at a 0% rate, bro. They was giving free money.
yep.
You know what I'm saying? Think how much they were able to ball off of that, giving bonuses, things of that nature. But imagine if that money they got was their actual money, bro. And that's what you see going on now. So Demetrius is talking good game.
And then
You
keep in
see?
mind, one more thing, keep in mind, bro, the Israelites, our people was just going through hell.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm
Yep.
talking about the temple got destroyed. We were always in battle with these cats. And he's over here telling you, look, man, we're gonna grant you immunity. We're gonna free you from all tribute, from the customs
Yeah.
of salt, working in the salt mines, and from the crown taxes. You see,
Yep.
Jake probably like, man, a regular Jake read that like, damn man, hell yeah, you know what I'm saying? But watch
Yeah.
what he gonna do.
Yeah, but they got history. They remember what Demetrius did to them because Demetrius did a lot of wicked shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, verse 30. And from that which appertaineth unto me to receive for the third part of the seed and the half of the fruit of the fields, I release it from this day forth, so that they shall not be taken of the land of Judea,
Balling.
nor broad balling, bro.
Balling. He pretty much like, look, the third of the seed and the fruit from the trees, your crops, how we take half of that and the third of what you got, all that's yours now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, crazy, bro. Now on the three governments which are added thereunto out of the country of Samaria and Galilee from this day forth forevermore. Let Jerusalem also be holy and free, with the borders thereof, both from tenths and tributes. And as for the tower which is at Jerusalem, I yield up authority over it, and give the high priest and give the high priest that he may set in it such man as he choose to keep it. So you basically had where he was going take away the garrisons that was in Jerusalem.
Yep. So we just read in the previous chapter that Bacardi set up a tower, and that's a tower you're probably talking about.
Yep, yep. Moreover, I freely set at liberty every one of the Jews that were carried captives out of the land of Judea into any part of my kingdom, and I will that all my officers remit the tributes even of their cattle.
Hmm.
Furthermore, I will that all thy feasts and Sabbath and new moons and solemn days and 3 days before the feast and 3 days after the feast shall be all of immunity and freedom from all the Jews in my realm. So, because what was going on these 7 days? Well, you had these Edomites, these Greeks. They would wait for the Sabbath day and they would come and attack us, man.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
Uh,
also no man shall have authority to meddle with or to molest any of them in any matter. I will further that there be enrolled among the king's forces about 30,000 men of the Jews, unto whom pay shall be given as belonging to all king's forces. So he trying to make them a part of his elite forces and shit. He's going
mm-hmm.
hard. And of them some shall be placed in the king's strongholds, of whom also shall some shall be set over the affairs of the kingdom, which are of trust, and I will that they overseers and governors be of themselves, and that they live after their own laws, even after the king hath commanded in their land of Judea. So he's trying to supposedly set some of the Jews up, as governors, as lieutenants, things, and for lack of a better term, in his army. You see, just because he wanted Jonathan's aid, man, and that just shows you, how strong we were, you know, during this time, man. We wasn't even at our full strength, man. Verse 38, and concerning the three governments that are added to thee from the country of Somalia, let them be joined with Judea, that they may be reckoned to be under one, nor bound to obey other authorities than the high priest. So he was going to annex Somalia into Judea, bro.
Pretty much combine the kingdoms back together.
Yeah, it's crazy, So he's making all these different you know different things and different promises, but of course Jonathan didn't believe a word that he said. We'll jump down to verse 46. Verse
Con,
46, when Jonathan and the people heard these words, they gave no credit unto them, nor received them, because they remembered the great evil that he had done in Israel, for he had afflicted them very sore.
man, if I may say, and that's the thing, man. Like Jake isn't in that mindset no more, man. You know, our people tend to forget the afflictions that Esau has done to us, man. Time and then Esau will be like, oh well, we'll give you Section 8, we'll give you welfare, we'll give you this, we'll make you a rapper, we'll turn you into an NBA superstar, NFL superstar, and we'll give you all these monies, we'll give you all these good things, man. Hey, it's all good. Hey, forgive and forget. But as you read in verse 46, when Jonathan and our people heard those words, like, man, fuck that. Hell no. He was like, no, we remember what he did to us. Matter of fact, all right,
Mm-hmm.
let me step real fast.
God, go ahead.
It's the book of Psalms, uh, 55 and 21, scripture we all know. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. You see, and that's how Esau always goes about, man. He'll tell you something that sounds good. It'll be pleasing in your ears, just how he did with the Gadites, just how he did with our brothers. He tell him he gonna make 435 peace treaties and he gonna break every single last one of them because why? The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was ultimately in his heart, man. And Jonathan knew that. That's why when he heard that deal that Demetrius was giving, he was like, man, nah, man, this is too good to be true, man. This has to be some maliciousness going on behind this,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Or it just shows you how the desperation of Demetrius,
Con,
because soon after Jonathan made that pact with Alexander, Demetrius was killed. Which when we keep reading, that's what we get into. Did you ask
mhm.
more, my brother?
Nope, you got it.
Okay. Verse 47, but with Alexander, they were well pleased because he was the first that entreated of true peace with them, and they were confederate with him always. Then gathered King Alexander great forces and camped over against Demetrius. And after the two kings had joined battle, Demetrius' host fled, but Alexander followed after him and prevailed against them. And he continued the battle very sore until the sun went down, and that day was Demetrius slain.
Hmm.
Oh, after that, Demetrius was slain, and you had it to where uh, Demetrius II had came out of the land of Crete, or actually that's an island, of Crete, to try to take over basically his father's empire. So that war began to happen. Meanwhile, Alexander was taken down by the Ptolemaic king.
Yep.
Because if you read up on Alexander Ballas, he was ruling debauchery, man. And the king got tired of it, to where it got to the point to where he took his daughter back from Alexander Ballas and gave him to Demetrius II, man. You know, and eventually he was taken down. You see, and then
Con,
we jump uh, actually First Maccabees, the 11th chapter.
I'll read it.
Okay.
You want to start at verse,
All right, we'll read the 1 through 20.
okay. This is First Maccabees chapter 1. I'm sorry, chapter 11, verse 1. It says, and the king of Egypt gathered together a great host like the sand that lieth upon the seashore, in many ships, and went about through the sea to get Alexander's kingdom, and joined it to his own. Whereupon he took his journey into Syria in peaceable manner, so as they of the cities opened up unto him and met him. for King Alexander had commanded them so to do because he was his father-in-law.
So the king of the Ptolemaic Empire, he goes to the land of Syria, and he's seemingly peaceably, but these people don't know that the Ptolemaic king is about to come back and take over this region, man.
Right.
Go ahead.
God, it says, verse 4, when he came near to Azotus, they showed him the temple of Dagon that was burnt, because you had Jonathan that came through in the previous chapter, in what is it, chapter 10? In the previous chapter, he burnt down the temple of Dagon. So he was pretty much showing them. He was showing them how, look, hey, look what Jonathan did. Just see how strong his forces were. He's bragging like, look at what he did. You know what I'm saying? It says when he came near to Azotus, they showed him the temple of Dagon that was burnt in Azotus, and the suburbs thereof that was destroyed, and the bodies that were cast abroad, and them that he had burnt in the battle. They had made heaps of them by the way where he should pass. Oh, bodies on like bodies. Work. It says also they told Salaki, you said something?
No, go ahead. I was listening.
Verse 5, it says, also they told the king whatsoever Jonathan had done, to the intent he might blame him. Look what he did. Look what Jonathan did. He burnt the kingdom down. Look at the destruction he did. But the king held his peace. Then because when you read before this, man, Jonathan and Ptolemy, they got in good with each other too. So Jonathan was good with Alexander, and he was good with Ptolemy. You see, it says, then Jonathan met the king with great pomp at Joppa, at Joppa, where they saluted one another in lodge. Afterward, Jonathan, when he had gone with the king to the river called Eleutheris, returned again to Jerusalem. King Ptolemy, therefore, having gotten the dominion of the cities by the sea unto Seleucia upon the sea coast, imagined wicked counsels against Alexander. Whereupon he sent ambassadors unto King Demetrius, saying, come, let us make a league betwixt us, and I will give thee my daughter whom Alexander hath, and thou shalt reign in thy father's kingdom.
Yep. So you had the king Ptolemy. He began to conspire to take that region over. And basically set up Demetrius II, man. Because again, when you read up on Alexander Bolus, he was a degenerate. Just partying. Spineless. Here he is. He's blaming Jonathan about the temple of Dagon being burned. But if you read in the 10th chapter, heck, you could start at verse 84. He's giving Jonathan buckets of gold, things of that nature, man. So King Ptolemy is looking at Alexander. He's like, man, this dude is not fit to rule, man. I gotta take this guy out of here. Go ahead, Op.
And it just goes to show you, man, like it's something that is always intrigues me, is that it's so beautiful and spiritual how you had infighting between Edomites at this time. You had infighting between the Edomites and the Roman Empire, and you had the infighting between the Edomites right now.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, the kingdoms fell. You know what I mean? It's just you see it happening today, all playing out. Putin and all these people, they Edomites too.
Yep.
Yep. But it says, verse 10, it says, for I repent that I gave my daughter unto him, for he sought to slay me. Thus did he slander him, because he was desirous of his kingdom. You see?
So he lied. He said, yeah, Alexander was trying to kill me. Alexander was not trying to kill him. But he wanted his kingdom. It's crazy. Go ahead, huh?
It says, wherefore he took his daughter from him and gave her to Demetrius, and forsook Alexander, so that their hatred was openly known.
And you know what? It's so funny. Just going back to that one, what he just did, that shows you that these people are Edomites too, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? With that just lie and is used to see as a means to get what they want. That's the so-called white man. What's it? Psalms 10. I grab it right quick, bro. Psalms 10. Psalms 10 and 1. Actually, I started 3 to get straight to it. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom Yahweh upholdeth. So these guys uphold people who are covetous. You know what I'm saying? That's what you see, in Alexander. Actually, King Ptolemy, man, was just blatantly lying, in the manner in which he lied. You see, condone those type of actions, man. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not all in his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for his enemies, he puffeth at them, and that's what you see with the king Ptolemy, man, being very prideful against somebody who laid down with his daughter, man. You see, his son-in-law.
Yep.
Integrity's sake, would you want to get, the dude that married, your daughter? He might be a known skull or whatever, but why would you get him killed? You know, for the sake of your reputation. But when you cover just like the so-called white man, anything goes, man.
Yep. And then when a man will give his daughter over to another man, that that's you making ties with different pacts with different land masses too, man. Like the Ptolemaic Empire was the second largest empire behind the Seleucid Empire. So
Yeah.
when he gave his daughter over to Alexander, you see, he was pretty much making a pact like, look, your land could be mine now as
Yep.
well. We pretty much are co-owners with this land in a way. You
Yep.
see, and I got a precept real fast. You don't got to get
Okay.
it. I'll read it. Just Job 14, 13 and 4. But ye are forgers of lies. You are all physicians of no value.
Mm.
That's
That,
Esau for you, man.
that's him.
You know.
That's him,
But,
bro.
but continuing on in First Maccabees 11. Um, let's see. Yeah, I was just thinking too, just thinking out loud, man. We may have to do this in two parts too, because like there's so much,
Brother, I think the same thing, God.
there's so
I'm
much
thinking
going in before before the beginning of the Hasmonean dynasty, which I'll be cool with doing two parts. This is dope. You know what I'm saying?
God.
But First Maccabees chapter 11, verse 13. I'm gonna read verse 12 again. It says, "Wherefore he took his daughter from him and gave her to Demetrius, and forsook Alexander, so that their hatred was openly known.
Mm.
And Ptolemy entered into Antioch, where he set two crowns upon his head, the crown of Asia and of Egypt.
Yep.
In the mean season was King Alexander in Sicilia, because those that dwelt in those parts had revolted from him."
So
But
the sky was falling for him. You had people that probably were pro Demetrius, which is this is extrapolation. They were probably voting against him. You see,
it says, but when Alexander heard of this, he came to war against him, whereupon King Ptolemy brought forth his host and met him with a mighty power and put him to flight. Because you got to remember, in the beginning of the first verse, it talked about how Ptolemy had a fleet with him that was as the sands of the sea. So he had a hell of a lot of people with him. You know, it says, so Alexander fled into Arabia, there to be defended, but King Ptolemy was exalted. For Zabdiel the Arabian took off Alexander's head and sent it unto Ptolemy.
that's right. So Alexander fled to the Arabians, and he didn't know, the Arabians are probably in pact with King Ptolemy. The prince. Which if you read up on him, that was the prince. Zabdiel. He was a prince. He ended up cutting the head off of dang on Alexander, man. You see?
Con. Verse 18, it says, King Ptolemy also died the third day after, and it says, and they that were in the strongholds were slain one of another.
So it said King Alexander died the third day.
King Ptolemy.
King Ptolemy died that third day, 3 days after it happened.
Yep.
Yep. And so what? The kingdom is basically up for grab, man. You see, it's up for grab. You know, that's when you had Demetrius. He began. He continued his path of trying to reign, man. You know. So let's go. Let's jump to First Maccabees 11:47 through 58. Huh?
First
Jump.
Maccabees 11, verse 47 to 58.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is First Maccabees chapter 11, verse 47. It says, Then the king called to the Jews for help, who came unto him all at once, and dispersing themselves through the city.
You know what? Salaki, brother, I take that back. Demetrius began to reign, Salaki, at this point. And so you had it to where he made a pact with Jonathan, okay, because his kingdom was rebelling against him. So he made a pact with Jonathan for help and said that he was going to take down all the garrisons, in Judea, but end up reneging
Let me
on his. Go ahead,
I'll read verse 20 through 26 so we can get get that understanding like you said. It says
Yeah,
verse 20.
I'm gonna rush through it because for the time's sake, but you're right.
No, you good. I'll read through it real quick. It says, At that time, Jonathan gathered together them that were in Judea to take the tower that was in Jerusalem, and he made many engines of war against it. Then
Where
certain
you at?
ungodly, I'm in First Maccabees 11 and 20.
Oh, you're at 20. Okay, I thought you said 26. Go ahead, huh?
I'm gonna read through 26. It says, Then certain ungodly persons who hated their own people went to the king and told him that Jonathan besieged the tower. You got Jake snitching and shit. It
Yep.
says, Whereof when he heard, he was angry, and immediately removing, he came to Ptolemaeus and wrote unto Jonathan that he should not lay siege to the tower, but come and speak with him at Ptolemaeus in great haste.
Mm.
Nevertheless, Jonathan, when he heard this, commanded to besiege it still, and he chose certain of the elders of Israel and the priests, and put himself in peril, and took silver and gold and raiment and diverse presents besides, and went to Ptolemaeus unto the king, where he found favor in his sight.
Mm-hmm.
And though certain ungodly men of the people had made complaint against him, yet the king entreated him as his predecessors had done before, and promoted him in the sight of all his friends.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that taking place, with him still besieging the tower, he got pretty much exalted again, Jonathan.
Yep.
Once again, you see. Now what I'm gonna do is jump to verse 40. I'm gonna jump to verse 48. I'm sorry, verse 47. It says,
Con.
Then the king called to the Jews for help, who came unto him all at once, and dispersing themselves through the city, slew that day in the city to the number of 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
Also, they set on fire the city and gat many spoils that day and delivered the king.
That's right. If you read up, yeah, if you read up, that's actually talking about how Jonathan, Demetrius II had Jonathan, basically, take down a revolt. So the Jews came in like it's crazy. Who came in like UN troops and totally, destroyed all the rebels, man. Burned the city up, and there was 100,000 that was killed that day. That's a lot of people, bro.
Man, a
It's a
lot.
lot.
Think
You
about a
know.
100,000. Think about 100,000 people die in one setting right now. That's a dang. That's a you know, people, 11 people down, and it's on the
Yeah.
news as a people crying and candle, bro, 1,000, 100,000 people, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Man, but continuing on, it says, verse 48. I'm sorry, verse 49. It says, so when you want to read through 51, you said
50, 58. Salakia.
58. Okay, verse 49. It says, so when they of the city saw that the Jews had got the city as they would, their courage was abated. Wherefore they made supplication to the king and cried, saying, grant us peace, and let the Jews cease from assaulting us in the city.
Yeah, so they were even white flag because we was getting on that butt. You know what I'm saying?
God,
Taxing, taxing them Edomites, man. 'Cause you know we were going hard. You know Jake gonna go in. You know.
God. It says, with that they cast away their weapons and made peace, and the Jews were honored in the sight of the king and in the sight of all that were in his realm, and they returned to Jerusalem having great spoils.
Mm-hmm.
So King Demetrius sat on the throne of his kingdom, and the land was quiet before him. Nevertheless, he dissembled in all that he ever spake, and estranged himself from Jonathan.
See that?
Neither rewarded he him according to the benefits which he had received of him, but troubled him very sore.
Mm-hmm.
After this returned Tryphon, and with him the young child Antiochus, who reigned and was crowned.
That's right. So Trophin was the regent for Antiochus the fifth, which was 9 at the time. Okay, so when that party began to get power, Tryphon he had Antiochus murdered and began to reign in his stead. You see, and at
Mhm.
the time, him, Tryphon, and Demetrius they were battling for power. Go ahead, on.
Then there were verse 55. Then there were gathered unto him all the men of war whom Demetrius had put away, and they fought against Demetrius, who turned his back and fled.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, Tryphon took the elephants and won Antioch. At that time, young Antiochus wrote unto Jonathan, saying, I confirm thee in the high priesthood, and appoint thee ruler over the four governments, and to be one of the king's friends.
Mm-hmm.
Upon this, he sent him golden vessels to be served in, and gave him leave to drink in gold, and to be clothed in purple, and to wear a golden buckle.
Mm-hmm.
His brother Simon also he made captain from the place called the ladder of Tyrus unto the borders of Egypt. Want me to keep going on it?
Um, a little bit more if you don't mind.
Con. It says, then Jonathan went forth and passed through the cities beyond the water, and all the forces of Syria gathered themselves unto him for to help him. And when he came to Escalon, they of the city met him honorably. It says, verse 61, from whence he went to Gaza, but they of Gaza shut him out. Wherefore he laid siege unto it, and burned the suburbs thereof with fire, and spoiled them.
Mm-hmm.
Afterward, when they of Gaza made supplication unto Jonathan, he made peace with them, and took the sons of the chief men for hostages, and sent them to Jerusalem, and passed through the country into Damascus.
Mm-hmm. So you have Jonathan gaining ground, in Syria. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's in Syria because the capital of Syria is Damascus. You see,
Right.
go ahead, up.
Verse 63, it says, now when Jonathan heard that now when Jonathan heard that Demetrius's princes were come to Cadiz, which is in Galilee, with a great power, purposing to remove him out of the country, he went to meet them and left Simon his brother in the country.
Mm-hmm. Let's stop right there. Let's go to 12 because it's really getting into like the war campaign of Jonathan. You know, that could get tedious. We want to focus on basically like the history of everything, the overview, and then you could study that by itself. Uh,
Con,
yeah. See that Jonathan continues with work with each other. Uh, so in Maccabees 12, notes that I have, it says Jonathan and Demetrius continue to work with each other. Tracking the season. Let's see here. And I skipped over First Maccabees 12. Actually, I had some notes for Maccabees, First Maccabees 39 through 52. Let's see here. 39 to 52, going into Tryphon and how Jonathan, this is the chapter that Jonathan was killed. Yeah,
con,
Jonathan was killed this chapter, you know, because they
con,
were, Jonathan was killed this chapter by Tryphon because, yeah, they were warned with one another. So,
probably like start at verse like 35.
yeah, like 35.
Con.
Mm-hmm.
This is First Maccabees 12 and 35. It says, after this came Jonathan home again, and calling the elders of the people together, he consulted with them about building strongholds in Judea and
Mm-hmm.
making the walls of Jerusalem higher and raising a great mount between the tower and the city, for to separate it from the city, that so it might be alone, that men might neither sell nor buy in it. Upon this they came together to build up the city, for as much as part of the wall toward the brook of the east side was fallen down, and they repaired that which was called Capanathia.
Mm-hmm.
Simon also set up Adida in Cephala and made it strong with gates and bars. Now Tryphon went about to get the kingdom of Asia and to kill Antiochus the king, that he might set the crown upon his own head.
Mm-hmm. Which we discussed earlier. Go ahead.
Uh, Verse 40, howbeit he was afraid that Jonathan would not suffer him, and that he would fight against him, wherefore he sought a way how to take Jonathan, that he might kill him. So he
Mm-hmm.
removed and came to Bethsan. Then Jonathan went out to meet him with 40,000 men chosen for the battle, and came to Bethsan.
Mm-hmm.
Now when Tryphon saw that Jonathan came with so great a force, he durst not stretch his hand against him, but received him honorably, and commended him unto all his friends, and gave him gifts, and commanded his men of war to be as obedient to him as to himself.
That's right. So here you had Tryphon. He set the crown on himself, and he had, was in fear that Jonathan, wasn't going to receive him as the ruler, because he had pacts with King with Antiochus the Fifth. You see,
Con,
and so he had Tryphon giving him gifts and things of that nature. While he's doing it, meanwhile, while he's doing these things, he has in the back of his mind that he's going to kill Jonathan, which he does, and eventually Jonathan is killed and Simon is set up in his stead, man, which we'll read this Maccabees 12, finish with Maccabees 12, and then we could pick it up with Maccabees 13, and that really goes into the Hasmonean dynasty. Okay?
con,
Yeah, we'll finish right here because we've been going for quite a bit. Go ahead, up.
Verse 44, it says, unto Jonathan also he said, Why hast thou put all this people to so great trouble, seeing there is no more between us? Therefore send them now home again, and choose a few men to wait on thee, and come thou with me to Ptolemais, for I will give it thee and the rest of the strongholds and forces, and all that have any charge.
So he's like, what? Why are you bringing all these men to fight? There's nothing going on in between me and you.
Right.
You know, come on, man. Won't you hey, Jonathan, send you guys home. Okay, come in. we'll have a drink and we'll go over a couple things
Mm-hmm.
with that Edom. You know how Esau does, man.
Yep. For the words of his mouth are smoother than butter.
Moving and butter, man. Go ahead.
It says, "As for me, I will return. As for me, I will return and depart. For this is the cause of my coming." So Jonathan, believing him, did as he bade him, and sent away his host, who went into the land of Judea. And
Hmm.
he himself he retained but 3,000 men, of whom he sent 2,000 into Galilee, and 1,000 went with him.
So Jonathan was basically he in another man's country with or region with 1,000 men. You see,
Hmm.
because of that, he was kidnapped. Basically, go ahead, huh?
Verse
You
48.
got correction because this chapter is very tricky. When you read it, it says that he was slain, but in fact, he was captured. Because you read in verse 13, it expounds on it. Go ahead, huh?
God, let's see where I'm at. Verse 48. It says, "Now as soon as Jonathan entered into Ptolemais, they of Ptolemais shut the gates and took him, and all them that came with him they slew with the sword.
Hmm.
Then sent Tryphon and host of footmen and horsemen into Galilee and into the great plain to destroy all of Jonathan's company. But when they knew that Jonathan hold on, but when they knew that Jonathan and they that were with him were taken and slain, they encouraged one another and went close together, prepared to fight.
Hmm.
They therefore that followed upon them, perceiving that they were ready to fight for their lives, turned back again.
So they didn't want that smoke because they knew that okay, these people were ready to fight because they thought Jonathan died.
Hmm.
Hmm. Go ahead, huh?
Whereupon they all came into the land of Judea peaceably, and there they bewailed Jonathan and them that were with him, and they were sore afraid, wherefore all Israel made great lamentation.
Hmm.
Then all the heathen that were round about them sought to destroy them. For said they have no captain nor any to help them. Now therefore let us make war upon them and take away their memorial from amongst men. So they wanted to completely
They wanted to wipe it out.
wipe us out, you know.
Yep, yep. And brother, we could stop right there, man.
God,
We stop right there. I'll rename this as Understanding Hasmonean Dynasty Part One, the begin or parentheses the beginning, and then we could, you know, go into the Hasmonean Dynasty because this was just the beginning.
God,
Yeah. So hey, most I willing, it was edifying, brothers. I know it was a bit lengthy. Hopefully, we'll make sense. You know, I pray we pray that it's edifying, man. We doing this, just to give brothers his history and understanding of how the New Testaments began. So with
God.
that being said, all praises to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shah by Hashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the others that rule well. And peace and blessings to you brothers out there that's keeping the word in sincerity, also in truth. Shalom.
Shalom.